Welcome to our Nomasis Webinar. My name is Nadine and I'm pleased to introduce to you Yasin and Franz, who will be presenting today. Today's webinar is about the way how to protect your company from smishing and CEO fraud. The session lasts about 25 minutes. Please notice that the webinar will be recorded and during the presentation your microphones will be set to mute and your camera is switched off. You may post questions during the session through the chat function to the host or post your question directly at the end of the webinar directly. Now, I would like to hand over to Yasin and Franz. You can start your presentation.
Thank you very much. So Nadine, should we do it in German or in English? What is easier?
Since we recorded and also put it on YouTube, so English would be better.
No problem. Okay, so my name is Yasin. I'm based in Munich in Germany, now since close to 20 years in the mobile security industry. 6 years with Lookout and here responsible for the channel in Central and Eastern Europe. And today I have my colleague here, Franz, who will introduce himself and say some words about his doing here with Lookout, but the topic that we have today is mainly a mobile security topic, and we want basically to share some insights around phishing on mobiles.
Thank you, Yasin. Hello, everyone. My name is Franz Winker. I'm solution engineer here at Lookout, so I'm basically the technical expert for all our customers, and yeah, happy to be here. I've been now 4 to nearly 5 years with Lookout, and yeah, I'm based in Germany, in Stuttgart, and I think we can go on.
Perfect. Next slide, please. So some words about Lookout, about us as a company. So the company is founded close to 18 years ago. In that time, there was mainly, I would say, some findings on old Nokia phones, where our founder have basically identified a vulnerability on the Bluetooth stack on old Symbian OS phones. And later on, they basically decided to move on with the first Android application. And then they started with the introduction of the new iPhone with the iOS version as well. So since that time, we are an AI company. So we are collecting telemetry data from all of our phones, of course, privacy confirm. That's super important here for the European Union. But you can imagine in that time period, we have collected a lot of telemetry data. And we have now a setup of more than 220 millions of devices. Same on the application level. So we have currently more than 325 millions of apps in our data corpus. So therefore, basically the feed threat or the finding possibilities if something anomalous is on your device is huge. We use AI, of course, but we have also a team of threat intelligence people sitting around the globe and supporting our threat intelligence data. During the last couple of years, we identified more than 1,400 threat families, and we have a huge knowledge in that area as well. The most prominent was identified back in 2016. That was the Pegasus Trojan from the NSO group. Maybe you have heard from that years ago, which is still alive, and we see them quite often also here in Europe. But yeah, it's a combination here in that world, in that area of our AI-driven machine learning security engine. With threat researching team who's basically then translating the threat feeds into a language which all of us can read and understand. Important, and not just here for Europe, but for all the customers and also for the customers in Switzerland, is data protection and data privacy. So it's super important that no one can see what we are doing on the phone, and that we just basically detect when something is not normal on your phone. That's quite important. Next slide, please. How we do that, I explained that a little bit. So it's basically a Lookout security graph. That's our Lookout security cloud with all the telemetry data that we have. Here in that case, as just said, more than 220 million of sensors worldwide. This will be, or is combined with web crawlers. That's important for our phishing engine. And yeah, what we are doing is we are securing the device against any threats on the phone, and that could be applications, that could be phishing, that could be vulnerabilities in apps or vulnerabilities in the operating system, but also active threat hunting is important. So you can basically also do active research in apps, and we combine that with our threat intel team, which is basically then doing the job for our customers to identify then exactly when a more complicated threat is on the device, and to investigate on any forensic investigations or support basically our customers when something is anomalous. So therefore, the whole Lookout setup is quite simple. You will get a console, you will get the application, and on top of that, you can basically get also threat intelligence services from us to have a full view on that, what is happening on your mobile fleet. Next slide, please. So today we want to talk about the modern kill chain and the different ways how the bad guys are acting. So we have here 5 different steps that we see. The first one is basically the raccoon stage, where the bad guys are basically looking for your company. They're looking for any data of the company in the dark web and social media to have a better understanding about the individual persons or the company. And the second one is basically social engineering, to understand exactly how they can create a phishing SMS, for example, or a phishing link to get access. And that's the third, the third step, to get access to your company. And then 4 and 5 is basically then not the topic for today, but it's basically our SSE component, where we will protect your company against data theft or exfiltration of any kind of data or ransomware. If we go a bit deeper into that, and this is basically a topic of today, is the first 3 steps. So this is part of our mobile security solution. And we protect you as our customer in all of these 3 steps. So that could be dark web monitoring, which is part of our mobile security console, or phishing protection. And for us, it's not important where the link is coming from. It could be an SMS, it could be in an email, it could be in social media, that could be in LinkedIn or whatever. We protect the device against any kind of phishing. And then the last one is the access to the company. So with continuous conditional access, for example, with our MDM vendors, we can basically block access if something is happening on the device. Step 4 and 5, as just said, is part of our SSE offering. It's not the topic for today, but if you need more assistance on that, then we can also support you. So mobile phishing, that's the biggest threat that we see so far. If we just released a couple of days ago our new phishing report, or our new mobile security report. You can find that on our web page. And phishing on mobile phones is the biggest threat. So we see an increase year over year of around 40%. And smishing, and that's the difference, because here we are talking about SMS phishing attacks, are also growing massively. Next slide, please. This is an official warning from the bugs in Switzerland. So they exactly did the same or they raised the same flag that we did a couple of weeks ago, or in that case, that was the end of last year, where they basically published an official warning against CIO fraud. And here in that case, they are mentioning churches, schools, political institutions, and also enterprises, where someone is basically trying to send a SMS in the name of management and then get any financial benefit out of that. So this is basically our official warning. You can find that in the week 49 section of the Bundesamt für Cybersicherheit in Switzerland.
Okay, so maybe you have already heard that we are using the name CEO fraud and executive impersonation interchangeably. So that's because basically both of them are the same, but CEO fraud is just a little bit more specific. So CEO fraud typically just targets, of course, the C-suite of an organization, while, of course, executive impersonation or impersonation at all can happen to a lot of different positions within an organization. Just wanted to clarify that before we go on. So what does that mean for Lookout as a solution? And to show you how this looks and how we protect you against those threats, I want to give you a small demonstration. Give me a second to switch over to the Lookout console. Oh no, to the phone. So what we see here is, just a typical iOS phone, but it could be an Android phone as well. We support executive impersonation detection and smishing detection on both platforms, which is important to know. And here in this case, we already see that this device is protected using the lightweight Lookout for Work application. It gets silently installed in most cases using the mobile device management of the customer. In our case, you might see the intelligent hub icon here, which is the Workspace ONE mobile device management. But we support a wide range of different mobile device managements. Of course, we support Microsoft Intune and a lot of others. So first, I want to give you some examples of executive impersonation and smishing. So for that, let's go into the messages of the corresponding phone. And here we see a typical phishing message sent over SMS that is targeted at businesses. For example, here, trying to do something like a second factor authentication or a warning that access has been done from a different location. And also a very convincing looking link that was targeted at us at Lookout. So Lookout okta-ssl.com. As you know, Okta SSL.com is not an official Okta website, so this is really a phishing message, and they are trying to basically show us a faked login page. Another example for executive impersonation would be something like this. We are going to assume that Bob Turkel is actually the CEO of the corresponding company, and often what we see happening in those messages is creating some urgency, saying something like, hey, I'm in a customer meeting, but I absolutely need you to get me some gift cards. Or maybe I'm on the airport and I need to catch that flight in 2 minutes, but can you please just authorize this one financial transaction? So they create specific scenarios that have a lot of urgency behind it, and they are using names that that are high up in the chain so that the employees don't trust themselves to speak up. So after we see some examples, so let's see what Lookout does if a message like this is received. So first we see that Lookout will show an operating system notification message. In this case, saying that a phishing message was detected. If we as a user click on this, we will get full information about this. Of course, in localized language. So we are presenting here today in English, but if you are using your device in German, of course, you will see this in German as well, or in French and other parts. So here we see then the full details that this was a phishing message, where it was moved. It was moved to the junk folder, and also some advice on how we protect our organization, but also ourselves. So this is how the Lookout for Work application basically warns about those incidents. So let's just also take a look how this looks on the mobile devices. We are back in the Messages app, And if we go to the filters, you will see there is a new folder called junk. And then within that folder, we see all the different messages that were filtered by the Lookout for Work application, like our two executive impersonations, but also the phishing message. So they are still on the device, but just moved out of view and out of the danger zone of the corresponding employee. We also see the small banner in the bottom, basically telling us that this was filtered by Lookout. So this is the end user view of this. This is what your employees would see if they are protected using Lookout executive impersonation and smishing. I also want to go one step further and show you how this really looks from an administrator or security perspective. So here we are within the Lookout mobile administration console. We have the content here in the middle and we have the navigation bar on the left-hand side. But just to highlight a few things here, first, as Yasin said, we are protecting globally 220 to 230 million devices. We also see a lot of health stats like the deployment status for our devices. So currently we have about 97% of our devices connected because we deploy zero-touch activation mechanisms to the devices. Your employees, most of the cases, don't need to do anything to set this up. So then we also see the smishing dashlet, where it provides us some information about the smishing and executive impersonation attempts in a given time period here in 30 days. And as you can see, while we only have 4 alerts here in our small demonstration fleet, we have nearly 5,000 global alerts over the past month. So let's go over and dig a little bit deeper. So here we are now within the issues tab and within the smishing area. And first what we get is some general instructions on how to set this up, also how it works. And especially for the executive impersonation or CEO fraud, Lookout requires customers to upload a safe sender list. So what this actually is it's a list of known telephone numbers and names of your executives so that we can cross-check whenever there's an unknown number and a message from an unknown number, if the corresponding message is really coming from the person that claims to be the corresponding person. So this is how we enforce the corresponding mechanism. We also get some information here in regards to the alerts over the given time period. And if we dig deeper, we also see all the different alerts that happened on our devices. We can click into those and get full information about the corresponding phishing links, the number of the corresponding sender, and some more information. For example, if there were other malicious attempts or CEO fraud attempts on the corresponding devices. So with that, we can go back to the presentation. As you see, smishing and executive impersonation is really is really easy to set up, and you have a huge value out of this. And the reason why smishing is, as Yasin already said a little bit in the beginning, is so important because SMS now is really the most common delivery method for phishing attacks. So while we see social media and email being about 50%, SMS is really with 17% of usage, the most common factor. Secondly, smishing also has a way higher clicking rate, about 10 times of what you would expect from your employees clicking in email phishing messages. And we believe here at Lookout that this is especially true because we are just a little bit more impulsive on our mobile devices. We have a shorter attention span on our mobile devices. So if we have a convincing message, we can get most of our users clicking on the specific links. All right, so how what do we do as Lookout with this smishing and executive impersonation? First, we are providing an additional layer that works with the defend in depth strategy. And this perfectly aligns to what we already have with Lookout for Work with our already existing phishing and content protection. While phishing and content protection works on the network layer, smishing directly works on the message layer and is just an additional layer of protection. And together, they work perfectly together to reduce the risk of employees clicking on the corresponding links. Why it's needed? Because, we've seen that the modern attack chain focus a lot more on social engineering than what we've seen in the past. But also the information that is needed for attackers that they gather during the reconnaissance stage or first stage of the attack chain is really broadly available in public tools. So I could use LinkedIn Sales Navigator or Zoom Info or some of the other available tools, pay a small subscription fee, and as an attacker would get access to all the different victims and victims' telephone numbers, and then I could send a very targeted message to those and make it fit the specific scenario. So what we are doing better compared to other solutions on the market, and especially compared to the existing capabilities, is that we really protect both operating system platforms, iOS and Android. We offer smishing and executive impersonation, which is a new use case that hasn't been covered by any other solution as of now on mobile devices. And what we also bring on top is basically the visibility and the reporting capabilities that I've shown you within the Lookout administrative console. One important question we get a lot of times is, of course, how does it look in terms of privacy? And what we really, how we built this really is with privacy in mind, and we built up the solution from the ground up to take this into consideration. So first and foremost, we don't only scan unknown context on the devices. So whenever there's a telephone number that is not within your contact book of the corresponding device, we are scanning it, only when it's not there. And to do this check, we are using operating system interfaces, so we don't need access to the full address book of the device. We are not storing those contacts in our cloud. We are not reading them. And secondly, the operating system itself, especially in the case of iOS, is being the messenger. So iOS is restricting what we are able to extract out of those messages and doing the filtering on behalf of Lookout. We look there using specific strings. So we basically just look for the URL portion of the corresponding message, if it's a smishing message. So if it starts, for example, with HTTP or HTTPS, and then we check this link against our known database. We are not transferring the full contents of the corresponding message. For executive impersonation, it works similar, but instead of comparing it to the database of known phishing links, we are comparing it to the database of known executives and employees of the corresponding company. All right, with that, I hand it over back to you, Yassin, to talk a little bit about the differentiation.
Perfect, thank you very much, Franz. So, we have seen that phishing in general is a big threat on mobile phones. We have learned now that the user is mostly the problem because your behavior is typically a bit different when you are on your phone than on your PC, in your regular office, because the way how you use the phone is different. So what we built here fits perfectly into our Lookout strategy as a mobile security vendor. We have currently more than 160 different patents on iOS and Android security, and you see that here basically as well. We don't want to mention any competition in that slide, but that what Franz has just shown is basically unique in the market. So some competitors, they have a basic protection on iOS, other one have a protection on Android. Some of them have both, but with the console, with the admin visibility, with the 360 degrees overview of smishing protection and in executive impersonation. So this kind of protection is pretty unique in the market. So therefore, we are more than happy to support you. If you have any questions, you can also ask our colleagues or our friends here at Nomasis in Switzerland, our elite partner there. And yeah, the only thing that I want to say now is thank you very much for the time. Thank you for yeah, being with us. And if you have any questions, so then yeah, it's the best time now to ask.
Thank you very much. I did not receive any questions, but you can unmute yourself if you have any. Or of course, you can always contact us, and we're happy to help you out. And if no questions are here, I would close this webinar. And before saying goodbye, I would like to remind you all of our upcoming pizza event on the 11th of April in our offices. And we would love to see you all joining. And you can find all our information on the webpage, some newsletters already sent out. And then I wish you all a nice evening.